Stephen A. Smith didn't hold back. He accused LeBron of stat padding and riding longevity to convince casual observers he's the GOAT. All fired off after LeBron's second decision, Hennessy Stunt, reignited the debate. Smith's line is blunt. At 40 and heading into his 23rd season, LeBron is piling up counting numbers that some will use as ammunition, and that shouldn't erase the fact MJ did a lot of his work in far fewer seasons. The Shadow League. That's a charged claim, and it's useful to separate three things: the marketing stunt, the numbers, and the larger GOAT argument. The ad itself is the obvious spark. LeBron teased a cryptic second decision that many fans interpreted as retirement and then revealed it was a Hennessy campaign, a move that felt like a bait and switch to a lot of people and produced both outrage and lawsuits from fans who said they spent big on tickets under a false impression. The stunt succeeded in getting attention, but it also handed critics fresh, easy talking points. Reuters numbers first. LeBron remains remarkably productive for a 40-year-old. Last season, he averaged roughly 24.4 points, 7.8 rebounds, and 8.2 assists while appearing in 70 games. Elite counting stats that keep him near the top of many leaderboards and within reach of all-time milestones. Those figures aren't flukes. They're the result of minutes, skill, and conditioning. Longevity inflates accumulation stats, yes, but it also takes extraordinary maintenance and adaptability to keep producing at that level into your 40s. Reuters now the criticism. Stat padding. As an accusation has two flavors. One is cynical, that a player extends his career or tweaks his role specifically to chase raw numbers that look good on illuminated stat sheets. The other is simpler and less malicious. Prolonged excellence naturally builds a historic resume. Smith's point sits between those flavors. He argues that counting stats collected over 20-plus seasons shouldn't be equated with peak dominance achieved in a shorter window. That's fair as a framing device. Obviously, Jordan's prime years were compressed and devastating, but it's incomplete as a dismissal of LeBron's case. FadeawayWorld.net, context matters. Jordan's peak was incandescent. His playoff dominance and titles in a relatively short prime are central to the GOAT claim. LeBron's resume is different. Longer peak, more cumulative production, and sustained relevance across eras, teammates, and roles. Which value do you weight more? Peak dominance or career accumulation? That's not an empirical question. It's an aesthetic one, and that's why the debate never resolves. Stephen A. is staking his ground on peak value. Plenty of voters legitimately favor longevity and adaptability. Both approaches have merit, and both are rhetorically powerful. The Shadow League, the Hennessy Stunt, complicates the optics. Even if LeBron's numbers remain elite, using a retirement tease to sell cognac invited the desperation and attention-seeking charges Smith leveled. Brand stunts that toy with emotionally loaded retirements are always risky. They can look clever, or they can look tone-deaf. In this case, many fans felt manipulated. Critics used that manipulation to question motive, character, and legitimacy. That doesn't change the on-court facts, but it changes the cultural narrative, which matters in a debate driven as much by storytelling as by box scores. Business Insider bottom line. Stephen A.'s jab lands because it's rhetorically neat. Longevity looks like padding if you want it to, and because the Hennessy tease handed him fresh fodder. But the substantive counter is simple. LeBron's late career production is real, not manufactured. Calling it padding overlooks the difficulty of staying elite that long, and it collapses two separate questions. Who was the best at their peak, and who compiled the greatest overall resume into one? The ad may have dented LeBron's optics this week, but it didn't falsify the statistical argument that fuels his case. The GOAT fight remains subjective. Smith sharpened his stance. LeBron reminded us he's still a statistical monster, and the rest is forever open to interpretation. The Shadow League. You ever watch a marketing stunt turn into a full-blown culture war? That's what happened when LeBron teased the second decision and then revealed it was an ad for Hennessy, and Stephen A. Smith didn't let it slide. The take was sharp, personal, and exactly the kind of spicy commentary that explodes on social. Reuters' Stephen A. didn't lead with jokes, he led with principle. On his show, he accused LeBron of stat padding to feed a retroactive GOAT argument, saying that piling up counting numbers late in a career can't erase the context of championships, eras, and peak dominance. His line was blunt. LeBron is stat padding his way to make ignorant folks out there think that's going to make him the GOAT over Jordan. That's not a nuance. It's a challenge aimed at what the GOAT debate really measures. ca.sports.yahoo.com. Smith's anger was twofold. First, he called the whole second decision stunt corny and cringy, an unnecessary callback to a moment LeBron has been criticized for since 2010. Second, he tied the ad's tone to larger questions about legacy. If you're flirting with retirement messaging to sell liquor, are you still prioritizing winning basketball the way champions do? In Smith's view, career totals are one thing, sustained championship-level dominance in a compressed peak is another. Awfulannouncing.com. Let's be fair, LeBron's resume is gargantuan. He's still producing at age 40, he sits atop the all-time scoring list, and his longevity is unprecedented. But Smith's argument isn't about forgetting stats, it's about what those numbers mean. Jordan won 6 titles in a 13-year peak that many consider untouchable. LeBron's longevity and accumulation are undeniable. But Smith insists you can't simply conflate counting stats with the same kind of peak-era greatness. That rhetorical distinction is ugly for social media, but it's the heart of the debate. Reuters. The Hennessy stunt lit more than a sport argument. It lit a branding fire. Fans and branding experts called the tease misleading and tone-deaf. Ticket prices spiked on retirement rumors, then sank when people realized it was just an ad. That bait-and-switch feeling is part of why critics like Smith went hard. This wasn't just another endorsement, then it felt like a performative attempt to manipulate conversation, and Smith called it out as such. Business Insider context matters here. Smith and LeBron have a long-running, sometimes adversarial public relationship, and Smith's comment about stat padding is both a critique of LeBron's tactics and a reminder of Smith's long-held stance that Jordan's peak trumps cumulative longevity in GOAT calculus. But the reaction shows how polarized this debate is. Some see Smith as an honest arbiter defending nuance. Others see him as deliberately diminishing a living legend's achievements. Either way, it sells clicks. The Shadow League. What's the real test, though? If LeBron follows the ad with collapse-level performance, the Hennessy rollout looks tone-deaf at best and opportunistic at worst. If he plays another smart, high-level season and the numbers keep piling, the stat padding line will sting less and sound more like sour grapes from the scoreboard's other side. Smith's point lands regardless. Numbers without narrative context don't answer the GOAT question. They only fuel it. ca.sports.yahoo.com. Last thing to chew on, the GOAT debate is never going to be settled by a marketing campaign. It's settled in the small things. Big shots in title games, the way a superstar carries a franchise through dysfunction, the era they dominated, and the scarcity of their peak. Stephen A. is staking his chips on that framework. LeBron's team is stacking numbers and cultural moments. The argument will keep going, and this Hennessy stunt just added another combustible log. Punchline. If you thought a commercial would quiet the debate, you missed the point. It only sharpened the knives. Who wins? The audience. Because that feud keeps the conversation alive and messy, which is exactly what sports entertainment lives for. Reuters.